What is this? Is this DadSchooled?
Oh
Hasn't
my
been
God.
on forever.
It's good to be back.
Good to be back. I'm Josh. That's Jimmy. This is DadSchooled podcast, and we've been gone for a while. We've had some scheduling conflicts. Let's just leave it at that.
Yeah. Yeah. There's been a lot just randomness happening all of a sudden.
I'm not even ready. Oh my gosh! I gotta move this over here and shrink Jimmy's head down a little bit. Too big.
Just out of practice.
Out of yes.
Blow out all
Okay.
the cobwebs.
Yeah. Yeah. Lots of cobwebs. Okay. So for today, is just in case you forgot because it's been such a long time. This is DadSchooled podcast. We are two dads with ideas, not all the answers, and we like to talk about our ideas and pretend like they're answers. That's the best I can come up with. Okay, so today comes after a long string of events in our lives, and I think we're just going to touch on the topic of raising godly kids that aren't useless. How's that for a title? Raising godly kids that aren't useless.
Yeah.
Now,
I mean, it's
does
an
this?
attention grabber.
Yeah, exactly. That's the point. It's like supposed to grab your attention and rope you in. I'm not going to pretend like, okay, first of all, I'm not trying to be mean to my kids when I say this. I'm not going to assume anything on Jimmy's kids. But the point of this talk is not saying that Josh's kids are perfect and are 100% godly kids who aren't useless. But I'm not saying they are useless either, okay? I'm just talking about ways that we can prepare them, ideas that my wife and I have come up with, ideas that Jimmy and his wife have come up with on how to raise children, make them godly to the best of our ability, and then make sure they're not useless to society. That's the far-reaching, overarching topic for today. So buckle up because it's going to be super exciting. So first of all, my kids, I would say, if you ask them, the standard question of who's the most important person in the world, I think they'll give you the Jesus answer, the church answer, which is God and Jesus, and then the parents, which is nice.
Yeah.
But that's not enough. And there's a certain point in their lives, I hope, that instead of giving the Sunday school answers, they step up and they give actual answers that are meaningful to them in their heart. And I can't make that happen. I can talk about the importance of going past that step in life, but I can't make it happen. Only the one person can make that happen. But what I can do is I can create an environment that's easy for them to learn that in. Okay, if I take them to I don't know, a bar every single day, and we intermingle with people in a bar, or if I go to like man, I'm gonna get semi-political here, but if I take them to leftist rallies every single day to participate, that's not going to be the best environment for raising probably godly children without heavy instruction on what's wrong with the situations we're going into. But even then, it'd be pretty stupid of me to do that. So I guess that's like the first point I can say in this first. I didn't even finish the whole introduction to this, but the first half would be focused around making smart choices as a parent in situations I put my kids into and conversations we have about topics in the world. It's a very, and we have so much material for this nowadays, don't we? Like, we can turn on any news source and we can pause it and have those conversations on a minute by minute basis of what's wrong with what they just said. Let's
Yeah.
do some critical thinking about what is actually going on. Let's educate ourselves, and not like, and that's my intention is I don't want to raising godly kids who aren't useless. Um, I would say it's very important to teach them to think on their own very fast, because I don't want to be the parent that I make a blanket statement and my kids start parroting that because dad said it. I
Hmm.
don't want to be like, oh, look at this situation. That makes sense because of enter their race, ethnicity, religion, whatever. That's the stereotypes, as funny as they could be in a meme or a joke, is not the place for your kids' ears and learning, because they take that as gospel this early in their lives. And if mom and dad think this way, then that's the correct way to think, because they still have the mom and dad. As we have teenagers now, Jimmy, I'm sure we were feeling this. Mom and dad don't know everything, right? But up until this
Close.
point, close. Like we're
Close.
the second best to them because they know everything.
Sorry.
And then real fast before I let Jimmy talk, sorry. The not useless part comes from just interacting. I'm not saying my kids are useless by any way, shape, or form. They have great skills, and every single day they surprise me more and more what they can do. But it's also important to think as dads, what can we do to help foster these knowledge gains from our kids? Like if I had a series that I started, a series that started and stopped instantly on the first try, but I need to start back up again. I think it was early this year or late last year, called "You Should Know This" or "You Should Know That." And the first success and failure at the same time came from me listing out the parts of a lawnmower and having my kids take a lawnmower quiz on the parts of a lawnmower and how to use it. I thought it was a great idea. I got a lot of feedback from friends and family on that one, and my kids had a lot of things to say about that too. They didn't really care for it, but in the end, they all can identify a lawnmower now, and they know about the parts of a lawnmower more than they did before. So it's like kind of a win. But I think that's important to think of more things like that we can do and make fun ways around it. You don't have to be really creative, but make fun ways for your kids to learn these things. Just not, you know, the hardcore approach that I did of sitting down and making them take a test over it. That was just my default reaction to trying to teach my kids something. But there's more things you can do of teaching them how to cook, teaching them how to clean properly, teaching them about basic car maintenance are all things that will help your kids not be useless. So I'm going to shut up for a second and let me talk about what I just vomited out here.
Well, I think one of the biggest things for us as parents, especially as homeschool parents, part of what we put into the calculus of our decision making early on when we had kids and deciding how we're going to raise them, all that sort of stuff, determining we were going to homeschool, is the realization kids are sponges. They learn whatever the environment that they're in, and you were kind of touching on that. If we're going to the bars or the sort of environment that we're in absolutely determines a lot of their decision-making process in the future, what filters they have that they're going to take information and make complex decisions about their own life, and then go out in the world and try to thrive, not just survive, out in the world. And so we kind of made those decisions, both of us in our own families. We were going to homeschool, as after thinking about, part of the conversation is thinking about, well, what's the environment in public school or other school environments? What kind of contact are they going to have with other kids? What sort of lessons are they going to learn from that sort of environment? I'm not saying this is the only piece of the decision-making process, but it's a piece of the decision-making process. And as part of that being, there might be some less than savory characters that they would be interacting with, picking up habits or words that we'd prefer them to not be picking up. So a piece of that leading us to, have them in our home. That presents that other challenge of, okay, I don't want my kids to go out into the world. Eventually they will be adults and they will have to go out and live a successful life on their own. And they need to not have massive skill gaps that they're going to, be found a year later, a shriveled up, mummified person in the corner because they didn't know how to feed themselves, or, you don't want worst case scenario suddenly because we didn't set them up correctly or successfully to be able to survive out in the world. And especially to your point, like, okay, we're in teenage years now. That means skill ability is ramping up, and so is the time clock of adulthood is quickly approaching. So it's definitely it's time to mash that gas pedal. Like, okay, we got to figure some stuff out and make sure that you're competent and capable. And that's a scary point as a parent when you finally realize, like, oh yeah, they need to be able to feed self, clean self, all the things.
Yeah, I mean, my wife has done a great job leading up to this exact moment. I think in my oldest son's life, he's 14 now, and
the other 3 are
I mean,
we forgot about that.
The twins are they're 12. They're not teens yet. So, but because they've seen their brother and what their brother's done, they have been able to step up and be responsible as well. Like one of my daughters, she is really, really doing good cooking. Like she can cook cookies by herself almost. Like I think the mixer kind of intimidates her a little bit still, but she knows how to use it. She just needs a little help and guidance with it. But the rest of it, like the measurements, the baking times, the confidence of using the oven, I mean, they're there. She's not afraid of pulling things out of the oven with oven mitts. She can all my kids, both my girls can make ramen noodles on the stove by themselves, unsupervised. They can make that they can both use the microwave. My oldest can use the microwave. I mean, these are life skills, and these are things like you take for granted until you have as a parent. It might be like an annoyance factor whenever your kids ask you, can you make this for me? You're like, you are 14. Why can't you do this yourself? And it sounds harsh, but at some point coming up really soon in that age bracket, you're not wrong. Like you should be able to cook something on your own and survive. Now, I don't know what the future holds for schooling for my kids. I have mixed feelings depending on what they want to do. I know some career fields require degrees, and some career fields require certifications, degrees, and the other half is our kids don't really know fully what they want to do, and that's not uncommon for this age. I mean, my wife went into college not knowing for sure what she wanted to do. It's just a general education just to get the things out of the way, and then eventually she changed her degree twice, I think, or once, and ended up in a teaching field that she used for 9 or so years before switching to homeschool, which I still argue she uses. But regardless, you don't need a teaching degree to teach homeschool. It's very, very, very. I'm not saying it's a myth, but it's
misconception.
Thank you, misconception. So, circling back, looking at my 7-year-old son, the things that he can do, like right now, he can get cereal out of the cabinet on his own. He can get a bowl out. He can pour milk. He can put it back in the fridge. Generally, it's not like a full milk jug. He can be pretty accurate and not make a mess. So he can make cereal. He can get Pop-Tarts and feed himself. He can do that. He knows how to get the popcorn out. He knows how to open up the popcorn and put it in the microwave. And if he was a little bit taller, he could reach the buttons. That's his problem now, is shortness. But he knows how to do all this stuff. Like, that's impressive. A 7-year-old, and I think it's strong because he's watching his siblings and wanting to step up, and that's good. It's healthy, I grew up with a 3-year older than me sister, and I had the same thing, that I watched all her successes and failures and strategically made my successes not her failures. And it worked out well for me. But I was able to also do a lot of things up in age that she couldn't do because she was pioneering being a kid in our household. Yeah. I got a lot of benefits out of that. And I have no doubt that my 7-year-old is doing the same thing. He gets to stay up later than my 14-year-old ever did and do things. But all that to say, learning happens at different ages at different times. And especially if you have multiple kids, I think the younger kids tend to pick up things faster, in my opinion. Now, shifting the conversation a bit, I'm not going to use names, but there are people around my people group of sphere of influence of friends and family that I can watch their kids and compare them to mine, right? And that's not necessarily something you always want to tell your wife to do. You usually tell her the opposite. Don't don't chase the Joneses, right?
Yeah.
Um, so with that said, it's hard because we're homeschooled. We have a different mentality of education and what we want our kids to do. And there is I'm not trying to poo poo any other people because I have some very very godly people in my life that have their kids in public school system. I think it's a different conversation at that point because they equip their kids to go out into that environment. I
Mhm.
think they are able to do that because they have those conversations with their kids, and their kids have the trust and feedback and communication loop and knowledge to go out into an environment that is not godly and still come home godly, to say it in a nice way. So, with all that being said, you touched on this before of we want our kids around certain situations and around certain conversations and peoples, and I agree because looking at my childhood public school system, I know what was talked about in classes and things I was exposed to, the things that I didn't know about, and I had to learn by asking my parents or my sister that I came home from school hearing. It was not what I want my kids to go through either. But then there's a little bit of part of me that worries that moment that they will meet reality is the worry for me. Like because we have a nice, I think my kids are pretty not gonna say sheltered from this stuff, but they're not exposed to the full brunt of the sickness in the world. If I just to be broad, I guess. So I worry about that at some point. A godly kid that we raise is going to come face to face with the reality of the world. And
Mhm.
how do you prepare them for that? In an intelligent way. So Jimmy's gonna talk all about that and solve that problem for us. Go ahead, Jimmy.
Yeah. Honestly, that's a huge challenge. That you don't want them to be naive about the world, but you also don't want them to get sucked in by everything that's going on out there. That's just absolutely bonkers and can be pretty scary. Everything that's going on. We're not perfect at it, but we find having direct conversations, and they can be uncomfortable. And like, okay, let's unpack what we just experienced while we were out at the grocery store and we saw, I don't know, whatever circumstance you could see just out or going to, we might go to a friend's birthday party or a family gathering, and the way some other kids are acting out, or some of the just other life choices that they've made, and the consequences of their decisions are manifesting themselves in their future outcomes. Trying to just be vague, but we've seen some things. We haven't experienced them in our own household, but we've been around where our girls are aware and their eyes are open. Like, okay, what's going on there? And they know that, and we've been able to develop that level of trust that they can ask any question
Hmm.
and not feel at least that's our goal, but not feel judged or ridiculed when they ask something that to us is like, oh, that's just common sense, like duh. Especially me growing up as a public school kid, like, yeah, well, yeah, that's blah blah blah. But they haven't been around that, and so for them to be able to ask those questions and not be mocked or, oh my gosh, I can't believe you didn't know, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
And so just trying to have that open communication and make sure that they feel that, okay, this is a safe place to ask questions, this is a safe place to have a conversation. If you're curious about something, let's talk about it. But we also read a lot together. We do a lot of family reading, and we tackle a lot of stories that can be really really complex, and touch on things like, okay, this is what can go on in the world. I mean, we've tackled some World War II stuff. Whenever society goes off the rails, these can be the consequences, that to no choice of your own, suddenly you're thrown into this very scary very challenging circumstance that takes you and your whole community to try to sort out together, and it doesn't end well for everybody. And we have open conversations about those sorts of things. And so we try to be mindful about what we, I don't like using the word sheltered, but what we will not allow in our home, but then trying to be mindful about, but you need to be aware of what's going on, and we're going to be part of that conversation with you to help bring you along. Because the world is a very powerful teacher, and it's unforgiving, and we want them to be as ready as possible.
Sheltered's a good word. I like it. I mean, you feel bad because, like, we know what's out there. We're experienced to it every day. We open up the internet and we have to, as males, as Christian males, we have to. How many like hide? Don't show me this stuff. Have you clicked on? Hopefully you do. I'm not gonna call you out on this one, I guess. But like me personally, I can't go on Facebook or X without clicking on don't show me these things, block this person, hide this, because it's content I don't need to see. And I'm constantly like, if you just look at any media source, they're pandering to the sexualized female body of some kind to men to click on and look at. And it's like, come on. Now, my kids, they do online work on programs, right? So like, that's one of my fears is something's gonna pop up on my boy's screen that he should not be. He'll be like, he'll be like, "Ooh, what's this?" Because it's the first time he's seen some of this stuff. That's not cool. It's like how, I don't know. It really sounds bad. Like we're trying to like shelter them completely from everything in the world. But like once they see certain things, you can't unsee it. Once you open Pandora's box, you can't take it away from that. And that is like some of the most powerful and addictive materials you can deal with. People struggle with this addiction every single day. And wars have been fought over, lusting after a woman, What is it? What's her name? That the face that launched 1,000 ships. His story is failing me right now.
I apparently skipped that lesson.
No, okay. Well, I got some homework to do. But anyways, there's like old king. Okay, going back to king and queen times. I mean, people are having wars over this type of thing.
David and Bathsheba. David ends up
Thank you for
committing murder in a really heinous way because of his wandering eye. Yeah.
There you go. Okay, so there it's biblical as well. We already knew that. But anyways, so my point being, like, I don't have an answer other than like get some proper protection for your computers and I use Bark. It's a reactive. It's not a blocker. Bark is pretty good at notifying me when there's violent or inappropriate material. Bullying is a big thing. I keep on getting alerts from bullying for my kids watching Minecraft videos of how to kill the Ender Dragon or other things. It's like violent attacking action bullying. I'm like, what? I open it up and it shows you a link to the video and it's like some kid playing Minecraft. It's like, really? But what?
We've got some other friends that got a Bark phone, and the mom was showing me the alerts that she gets. She's like, yeah, here's like coercion for drug use and all that sort of stuff. She's like, well, that was me reminding my son to take his vitamins with his breakfast that morning. It's just like, there's mechanisms that you can build into your life, but sometimes the outcome is a little comical.
Well, and it's funny because like I show my wife every now and then. There's alerts on my phone. We don't have a Bark phone. We have a Wise phone for my son, my oldest, and we're probably getting close in the next year or two to looking at things for my daughters as well. And it'll probably be a Wise phone. It's just a really not dumbed down but restricted smartphone. So there's only like calling, texting, and even then it's like only people that we add, and it's really cool. We highly recommend it. Bark, like I said, because that one's restrictive. Bark is reactive, so it already lets your kid see the material, and then it tells you about it. So you have conversations about it. So it's like it's good to have that, because if things slip through, it's good. We had in Google Drive, we connected it to our Google accounts, in Google Drive and in their email. I got an alert for Wizard of Oz. They did a play at the co-op, and Wizard of Oz had some like monkeys hit somebody or whatever. It was some action of hitting, and it triggered Bark to notify me there was a violent thing my kid was reading. or Luke will my oldest will listen to Spotify, and he listens to Holvey. Oop, I lost Jimmy. He listens to Spotify, and we get notifications that some of the heavy Christian songs from Holvey, or what's the other one? Can't remember. Anyways, Christian artist. It's violence and other things, and it's like, really, it's not really what's going on, but it's alerting us. So Bark is a good resource to monitor your kids. They also do emails and other things too. I'd recommend layering, putting on your Wi-Fi network passwords that you control so your kids don't. I would highly recommend. This is kind of turning into a tech talk right now, but it's okay. I'd highly recommend layering your levels of restriction for your kids. On your router, learn how to put in guest accounts or put in multiple accounts for Wi-Fi. There's Jimmy.
I don't know what happened.
You came back to me.
I came back.
So I was going off the tech deep end here for a second. So just
good.
Sit with me. So learn your router settings and learn how to control the Wi-Fi password. Make sure your kid can't get into that account to change things. And then deeper inside those settings, there are whitelists and blacklists. Whitelist is something you want your kids to be able to access, and blacklist is things you don't want them to access. And you can go, for us, we have educational and curriculum based URLs that I put in the whitelist, and then I have a whole bunch of things I put in the blacklist. I just go through all the known porn sites. I use GPT to accumulate a list, and then I look for other ones and just put them in there. So they're blacklisted at the router level. So if they use if they do happen to get a tablet or smartphone that uses the Wi-Fi, it's blocked at the router level, not at an application level. So there's multiple layers of security you can do to help your kids with some of these things. If you have Disney Plus or any other type of streaming service, it's very important to make sure you have parental passwords on your accounts, and you have kid passwords for your kids. We have a common 4-digit number my kids all know for all unlocking tablets for kid mode, and they all know that. And that's how they access. We have smart TVs in our bedroom and other rooms of the house, and my youngest will watch like some puppy dog show he likes watching nowadays, but it's on Disney, and all we can get to is putting in his little password in the Disney Plus app. So it's useful, as annoying as it is for a parent to have to put in a password to use your own stuff all the time. Trust me when I say it's worth it, because you can't be too careful, and you're showing maturity. You're showing your kids how important it is to guard their hearts and to watch the appropriate material. Now, on the same end, this is going to be a hard one for you to hear, Jimmy. Should we as adults, should we as dads be watching all of the super R-rated and NA material? Should we be watching that, really? Like, I would say no. As much as it pains me, there are some shows that I will fight for, and there's some shows that I'm still on the fence with. Like, I really want my son to watch certain shows eventually with me, but they're super gory. And even he now is like, there's a lot of blood in that. I'm like, yeah, there is, but it's really cool. And as a Christian dad, I'm like, is that the right way to be going about this? Maybe not. I mean, I should reevaluate this. But to that sense, your kids don't need to see you consuming a lot of bad material either. So something, music, video, all that stuff goes together.
Yeah, and I know I'm like one of the outliers out there. I absolutely loved whenever we I think we probably checked it out at Blockbuster Video or something early on. But the Band of
Blockbuster.
Brothers series that HBO put out,
Yes.
it's a classic, super good, so good. And then you get to the very last episode, and there's a gratuitous sex scene that they just threw in, and so the story Band of Brothers follows Major Dick Winters and Easy Company, and Dick Winters was a man of super upstanding character, high morals, and you can see that portrayed through the story. And if one of my favorite books is his memoirs, his personal memoirs from the war. But it got to the point he was so upset that they included that scene that he personally ended up shunning Tom Hanks for the rest of his life until he passed away just a few years ago. He's like, it was such a perfect historical representation. Everything else was accurate. He was the first. He's like, I wish he would dial back the language a little bit, but that was accurate. Yes. He's like, but that was something that could have been shown to any young person as a great instructional, like, this is what history is like, this is what has gone on. And then he was ashamed that they included that. And so I don't own it. I watched it one time and I absolutely loved it. But I don't have it because I don't want that in my home. I don't need that in my home. I'm not going to support that. And I know I'm an outlier in that. And I know that there's other people that would be rolling their eyes and shaking their head like, oh, that's okay. No big deal. But I know that about myself. I have to have those kind of guardrails up, or spiraling will happen. And I'm not okay with that.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there's so many good classics out there that at some point in time, it just gets ruined by a needless sex scene. Like, yes, I mean, this is going off the rails majorly from our talk here, but it's okay. We can keep on going. It's just frustrating. Like, thank goodness, for the most part, the major movies, I would say, of Star Wars have stayed away from that. Luckily, if you look past the Princess Leia in a golden bikini aspect, but there hasn't been needless gore,
gratuitous,
or sex, or even profanity. Like, for the most part, in the main 9 movies, 9 movies. It's funny. In the main 9 movies, there are not. Okay, now they have. I would even go as far as say, like, the Clone Wars cartoon series. I highly recommend. It's pretty good. Now, some of the TV portrayals and newer things they've come out with in the past couple of years, there are some questionable things you can probably say in those. And I would encourage you as dads to watch those before you show your kids. But I mean, it's hard to find good series nowadays. Just leave it at that. Blanket statement. I have a whole list of World War II things I used to watch as a kid that I'll go back and watch now. I did not know how racist some of the things they said are in there. And it's not like the woke racism you hear nowadays. It's just things like slang terms that I never even thought about. Like, how do I call Japanese people if you don't like them? It's like, do I want my kids to hear that? But then again, it's like, that's the culture of that time. And I almost look at it as historical. I can tell them it's not okay to say this stuff, and I gotta make sure I tell them that. I don't know. It's just musing here. I mean, there's several movies that. Go ahead. Sorry.
That's very similar to what I was saying earlier, that we have deliberate conversations with our girls, that when we do encounter something that, okay, there's a tremendous level of value here, and you might hear this one word, like, we'll have a conversation about that, and we try to not shy away from that. And because we don't want that to become like, oh, so and so said that on that show that my parents showed me, so that must be acceptable because my parents let me hear it and they didn't say anything. They didn't seem to bat an eye or think it was odd, so that means that is an acceptable use of word or whatever, and that's not what we want. So we have to try to be deliberate and direct on that.
Lord of the Rings just came to mind too. Like, they had a very successful multi-video franchise that they put out there, and there is not gratuitous sex. There's a lot of violence, but I think it's done in a tasteful enough way. You know, it's, I don't know, cutting people's heads off, I guess, isn't tasteful, but they could have been a lot worse. I'm not sure how much of the Game of Thrones you've ever watched, but that's they show a head getting cut off in Game of Thrones, and you see the splurts of blood from the arterial bleeding, versus Lord of the Rings is just like, boop, head rolls off, black blood maybe because it's an orc,
Right?
But I mean, the difference is in the ways they do it. I mean, we just watched Indiana Jones in the Temple of Doom. No, the Raiders of the Lost Ark. And that one, there's a couple, exactly. That's okay. So the face melting scene, I was kind of sad because as a kid, I watched that and it was, it had its effects on me, obviously. But this was with my 7-year-old. We watched this. Okay. So right from the bat in the beginning, he's played the Lego games of this on Xbox. So he knows the story roughly. But he's like, is the ball going to chase him, Dad? I was like, yeah, I'm excited. This is my dad moment of excitement. But then I'm thinking, and I'm like, luckily I watched this like so many times because I know it's going to come up. My wife, she has no memory for movies at all. And she's glad that I was there because at key points, I'd be like, cover my son's eyes. And like the beginning, the spikes would come out and kill a guy, or there'd be a dead person on spikes from, a older mummy person. Just things that are jump scares to a 7-year-old. You don't need to really expose them to.
No.
So we did that. There's some things I didn't catch in there early, like later on, like a bunch of drinking alcohol, being drunk, playing drinking games at a table. We explained to him, that's not what you do. It's not smart to do that to your body. It's conversations like you said. But then at the end, they had the face melting scene. And I'm like, okay, I'm torn. I'm like, a bunch of Nazis getting sucked into the Ark or the Covenant, and it's Nazis face melting. That's perfect. It's like, it's what should happen, right? And right. I had to cover my son's eyes. And actually, I fast forward. I'm like, okay, everyone there died except for the two main characters. It's just all you know. But, so things like that, you just got to be smart about it. You can still watch these movies. Language was a problem. There is some language in that, and you got to talk about that. We don't say that, but I feel like this podcast has turned into a movie review, which is fine. But all that being said, I think the whole overarching topic here is how to make your kids godly and not useless. We've been heavily hanging on the godly part, and I think it's important because it is if your kid is, I'm not going to say this in a nice way, but if your kid's a jerk, your kid doesn't respect anybody around them, if they're mirroring you, maybe you should look at yourself, because that's probably what's happening if your kid's not a nice kid. I watch some kids on the soccer field that my son plays with right now, and they're not handling situations correctly. Like, they will yell at kids for not being in the right spot. Now, that's another topic, I guess, of like, you can talk to your teammates and tell them that they're doing something wrong, but there's ways to do it nicely, not coddling your kids, but you don't need to call them names. That's the problem I have with it. Like, I'm fine, be hard on him if he's doing the wrong stuff, call him out, it's fine, but you don't need to dog him. Like, why would you do that? What are you, stupid? Things like that. It's like, that's crossing the line. I think you need to reevaluate how you're telling your kid. Anyway, this is going off on a tangent here, but the point is, your kids should be respectful. Your kids should be a nice individual. They should be able to function in society without attacking everyone around them. How's that? That's a general blanket you could say. And then the whole being useful thing. I mean, that a lot of that has to do with us dads not being lazy, right? I mean, I know a lot of the benefits that my kids have right now come from my wife. 110%, all credit due to her, because I've been in the workforce out most of the day, or in my office working, and she does a lot of the training for them. I try to help as much as I can. So I say for dads, if you are in a family where your wife is homeschooling or doing a lot of the schooling or teaching, and you're working a lot, recognize that and encourage your wife, even, and if you're doing it, I encourage you, but you should definitely have those conversations with your spouse. How can I help? How can I help teach some things? I want to teach my kids something. What suggestions do you have? Have those conversations with your spouse.
Mm-hmm.
They might not always agree with what you want to teach them, and that's another conversation. Maybe that's not something they need to learn right now. Maybe it's something they do need to learn right now. Should they know how to change a transmission in a pickup truck? Maybe they do. Maybe, but I don't know.
Yeah, I think just kind of that key word that keeps popping up in my head of what we want our children to have, what should be in their toolbox when they leave the home, is resiliency. That life is going to rock them, because it does to everyone. They're gonna get their feet swept out from under them a couple times. How do they respond? How do they come out of that situation? Does it utterly destroy them and set them backwards for the rest of their life? Or do they have the skills, ability, knowledge, competence to, okay, what went wrong? How can I assess the situation, and how can I be better prepared in the future, and progress forward from this moment on? That's what we want to allow them to have exposure to things that might not go their way always, so that they can experience a little failure from here and there, but in a safe kind of environment that allows them to build up that resiliency. And that's kind of the key in the back of my mind of what I'm wanting to introduce to my kids as they're growing up.
Right. Yeah. And just I'm not sure how close you guys are to this too with your oldest, but our oldest 14-year-old, he's eyeballing some jobs. Right. We have some friends that are offering some things maybe, and it'd be like the perfect setup. He can even take his schoolwork and do while he's there, which is great. That level of responsibility is something like once you start, it's hard to stop, and you kind of need. But like he has everything he needs right now, so does he need to do that kind of stressful thing? But it's also teaching a little more responsibility, which is great. Interacting with people, it's great. We recently, I mean, this is everyone has their own way of doing this. My sister and I were never really sat down and taught. This is how you do your taxes. This is how you do your bills and your budgeting. We watched our parents deal with that, and they dealt with it in their own way because of our situations. And that's something we learned was being open with each other, spouse wise, with our parents and stuff, because they were very open with us and with each other with how they spent money. But we went the what's it called? Every Dollar, the Dave Ramsey program, Every Dollar. And we just switched banks. We were at US Bank. We switched to a credit union because they had way better interest rates for everything, savings, everything. We also opened up individual banking accounts for our kids, which we'd never done before. And they all have like cards. We have like the youngest ones, but like the other kids have their cards, and it's tied to their account. They have allowance. So as they do chores and other things that we've deemed cost something, they can do extra, and they can get some money. And in Every Dollar, it's hooked up in a way that it shows the money coming in. Like our girls don't have the automatic feature because it costs money. It's a free version still. But my son, my oldest son, he has the automatic version that we paid for because we think it's important, and he's getting close to that working age that it's going to be useful. When a transaction comes in, it actually shows it coming in from the bank, and you actually budget it all out. And so he's learning all that stuff. That's stuff that I've never learned like until adulthood. So it's important as you go through different situations and you deal with your weekly budget for monthly budget or whatever, however you budget, you can teach your kids these things as well. Bring them alongside you and show them how to be better stewards of our money, you know? So that's the last bit I wanted to really cover, but it's important and exciting because when you see them start taking these things and being the better person that you weren't until much later, it's really exciting to watch them grow. So okay, Jimmy, what's our assignment this week? We need an assignment for our mini viewers.
Allow your kid to fail and help them to pick up the pieces after.
Make your kid fail. Got it. Okay. Okay. Yeah.
I wasn't ready for that part.
Yeah. So allow your kid to fail. Think of this week in a way you can make your kid fail. Good job, Jimmy.
There you go. Yeah.
Okay.
Set up a safe circumstance for him.
Set up a mattress and throw him off the roof. You're saying?
Yeah.
Fail. Okay. I think this is the end of today's episode. I'm sure everyone has questions about what the heck did I just listen to. If you have those questions and those feelings that you need to reach out and talk to someone about, dadschoolpodcast.com has all your links. We're on all the socials, more or less. Yeah, reach out to us, comment, like, subscribe, and join us back. Hopefully we have an ongoing show in the upcoming weeks as well if we get our schedules solidified.
Yeah.
But
hopefully.
Last words?
Do the things.
Do the things. Okay. Now take care. We'll see you guys later. Bye.